Here with this week's hottest stories in the investment world, this is Zacks Friday Finish Line.
Hello, and welcome to the Zacks Friday Finish Line. I'm Ryan McQueenie, a content writer here at Zacks, along with one of our editors, Maddie Johnson.
Hello, I'm back.
Yes.
After a 2-week hiatus.
It was an unsuccessful bear hunt from what I heard.
Unsuccessful.
Yeah.
A little disappointing. No moose either, but we saw a lot of elk out in Yellowstone.
Wonderful.
So that was exciting.
Wonderful. So today is Friday, August 5th, and we're here as always to recap this week's biggest stories. We're coming to the tail end of what has been a very busy earnings season. We still have a few key companies to look at today. First, though, we're going to get into some pretty big news from everyone's favorite private company, and that is Uber.
Oh, Uber. So they have finally given up on China after a long tumultuous
relationship
fight,
with the country.
So 2 years basically, and billions of dollars spent trying to gain a solid foothold in the region. Uber has conceded victory to rival Didi, and I did figure out how to pronounce this. It's Chuxing, in a deal to sell their China operations to the company for a whopping $7 billion. But the payment isn't in cash, but rather stock in Didi. So with the deal, Didi is now valued at $35 billion, which is huge.
Yeah, sure. Definitely a massive move. Probably a little bit disappointing for those people who wanted things to work out for Uber in China.
Most likely, yeah.
But I kind of saw it as a noble way to bow out of the competition. So
yeah, I feel like China was just a code they couldn't crack. And Didi has always kind of dominated the market out of any other ride-hailing service besides Uber. And the company has had other major investments from Alibaba, Tencent, and Apple, which, if you remember that sneaky move a little while ago.
That's true.
Apple.
A big, $1 billion investment
huge,
a couple months ago, yeah.
But leading up to the deal, Uber had noticeably been lagging behind Didi. So as you said, it was kind of a noble way for them to bow out and kind of seek efforts or improve their efforts and expand their presence in other countries.
Yeah, I think another interesting thing to think about there is just how, another example of how difficult it's been for foreign companies, but specifically American companies to operate in China recently. A variety of market factors make it difficult for American companies to compete with Chinese companies on, their home ground in China, whether it be the government literally banning things like iBooks and other aspects of the Apple library to kind of give an edge back to Chinese competitors, or just going up against a Chinese company like Didi that already has that, they're claiming up to 99% of the taxi hailing market in the country. So it's been tough recently.
Yeah, but it seems like Uber and Apple have kind of found a way to breach that market, which is investing or just partnering with a Chinese company. So.
Yeah. So that's the other thing here is they're now kind of working a little bit. It's not a complete leaving the country because they've got 20% of.
And I think, are they allowed to still use the Uber brand in China?
I don't know if if Didi will be just taking over the Uber brand itself and keeping it. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, other than Uber, we've had another huge story from two of our other favorite privately held tech companies.
Yeah.
You want to explain?
Yeah. So the big private company here that we're going to talk about is Snapchat. And everyone's favorite social media company, Facebook, and their little child Instagram. I couldn't think of a better way to put that. A subsidiary of Facebook is Instagram, the picture sharing social media site. Instagram this week on Tuesday, I believe it was, when it launched officially, they announced this new feature called Stories, where users can post photo and video slideshows that disappear after a 24-hour period. So if that sounds familiar, it's because that is literally what Snapchat is now. Not necessarily what Snapchat started as, but for the
That's
past...
what it's evolved into.
I think it came out 3 years ago was when Snapchat Stories debuted, about 3 years ago. Is exactly what you do on Snapchat now. The majority of the interaction that you have on Snapchat is posting or looking at stories. It's been how Snapchat has started to monetize the company or the service at all, by kind of integrating advertisements within the stories, selling different filters that you can post onto your stories that are advertisements, things like that. And so now Instagram has what is basically an exact clone of a Snapchat story. It's also called Stories. A head scratcher a little bit as far as what are you doing that's different?
Yeah.
But they're not even trying to dance around the fact that it is a copycat of Snapchat. Instagram CEO Kevin Systrom, I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Sorry if I'm not, Kevin. He said in an interview with TechCrunch this week that Snapchat deserves all the credit, and quote, "This isn't about who invented something. This is about format and how you take it to a network and put your own spin on it." So acknowledging the fact that they are kind of taking the idea from Snapchat and kind of challenging them, or saying to them, we're going to do it better than you, which is interesting. I mean, Snapchat or Instagram obviously has the advantage of, like I said, their parent company is Facebook. They've got a slightly bigger user base and certainly a more well-established advertising strategy, and like the tools to probably, monetize this idea a little bit better than Snapchat is, who is kind of still building that aspect of the company.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's also a way for Facebook to try and get something out there like Snapchat, which they have kind of unsuccessfully been able to do since they own Instagram.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and as you pointed out in your article about this week, is not even the first thing the first option to copy Snapchat out there.
No.
Microsoft has Wind Up.
Well, I think that's only, Wind Up. And you can still download it on their app store, but I think it's because Snapchat is not available for the Microsoft phone. So Microsoft was like, well, we need something just like Snapchat. Let's make the same thing with a different name in our app store.
Yeah, and also Line, which just is, we've talked about on the show because of its, it just recently debuted. It just had a relatively good IPO, more of a messaging app that's popular in several Asian markets. It's a Japanese-based company.
Right.
They have some similar features to Snapchat Stories as well too.
Yeah,
on that application.
I feel like the theme kind of across all of these apps is just the disappearing photos. It's like the main thing that's quite similar.
Yeah.
And what's also interesting is that Snapchat has now a feature. I'm not sure if it's live, but you can also take photos and like keep them and like archive them like Instagram, which is an interesting twist. They're all starting to sound the same and merge into one another.
Okay, so that was kind of my next question is there room here for everyone? It seems like it would be difficult at this point to just muscle Snapchat out of the social media world completely because of how relevant it is right now, and how big it's gotten over the past year or so. Obviously, we don't have a great sense of their financials simply because they are still a private company, but we do know they are looking towards an IPO already, and certainly their valuation continues to grow. Of course, we'll remember in 2013, Facebook attempted to buy Snapchat for $3 billion. They were rejected. A bold move from a company that, $3 billion, 3 years ago that was right around the time when Snapchat Stories was first coming out, if not maybe before it.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, they officially launched in 2012. So
okay, so yeah, so I mean, in 3 years later, Snapchat's valuation is much larger than that. So a company that has had high aspirations for itself, it seems like it would be tough to just muscle it out of it completely with just copying their idea and putting it on your platform. But we'll see. I mean, social media companies have become irrelevant before.
That's
Looking at
fair.
you, MySpace. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. Maybe it doesn't take off. Maybe everyone hates Instagram stories and would rather have their own separate thing for.
Yeah. Well, the ones
those.
I've seen so far on my personal Instagram is everyone being like, this looks like,
This is
this is a little familiar.
Yeah.
This looks like Snapchat.
Yeah. So, and then that's the other thing is the Instagram CEO saying, this is how you put your own spin on it. What if it just sucks? What if their spin on it is unpopular and it fails? We'll see. I guess
Yeah.
it's 2 days old at this point, 2 or 3 days old at this point. So, we don't know much. I mean, it'll get updated. They'll tweak it, I'm sure, and time will tell whether there's room for everyone in the 24-hour stories world.
Definitely.
This new type of thing. But yeah, as I said earlier, moving on now to what is probably going to be the tail end of our earnings season. Still have a few companies that we want to highlight. So yeah, I'll let you start, Maddie.
Yeah. So Fitbit reported earlier this week. They did pretty well.
They needed it too.
Yeah. So they beat earnings estimates and revenue estimates. So they posted EPS of 7 cents per share, but that excluded 4 cents from non-recurring items, and that beat our consensus estimate of 4 cents per share. Revenue came in at $586 million, which also beat our estimate of $573 million. And in its second quarter, Fitbit sold 5.7 million devices, which is good because I feel like Fitbit has kind of fallen off.
Struggled a bit. We used to talk about it a lot. I would say last year was, obviously it debuted last year and then was kind of this really hot, talked about stock for a long time. Kind of fell victim to the hype game, which happens to so many companies like this.
Especially in the wearables market, for sure.
Yeah, well, everyone was all in on wearables, and I hate to float my own boat, but I've been very out on wearables for a long time. I'm not salty that they've posted a good report. I'm happy for the company because like I said, they didn't need a good report. They have been struggling this year, mostly based off of just their inability to sell devices.
Right.
And in things just looking like, hey, maybe people aren't super stoked about wearables or not as stoked about Fitbits as we thought they were going to be. But revenue increased 46% year over year this quarter. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Pretty good, yeah.
Could be bouncing back. Maybe people do actually like wearables. It definitely an interesting report. Happy that the stock popped a little bit because it was struggling for so long. Another company this week, speaking of struggling, it is this whole kind of industry has been struggling lately. Is Time Warner reported this week. So they had earnings that came in at $1.29 per share, which beat the Zacks consensus estimate of $1.16 per share. That was earnings were up 3.2% year over year. So that's certainly good news. However, revenues were down. Revenues decreased 5.4% year over year to just $6.95 billion, which came in short of our estimate of $7.15 billion. However, the earnings beat, revenue miss, not the biggest news from the report. Time Warner announced in its earnings report this week that it was buying a 10% stake in Hulu, which, for those of you who are unfamiliar, Hulu is one of the major players in the online video streaming game.
Yeah, definitely one of Netflix's biggest rivals.
They are a place you can go. Unlike Netflix, Hulu has a little bit of coverage on current shows.
Right.
So there are people who in the cord cutting world that utilize Hulu because they can stay up to date with shows that are airing right now. They've also recently, within the past year or two, started their own original content production, like Netflix has done.
Pretty good. I've been impressed with the shows.
Yeah, it's all right. It's a little bit lower budget, and you can tell, but definitely something. They're staking their claim in that world. But I wanted to talk about this for a second because it's kind of another example of what is now common or has become normal in the cable industry, which is that these big cable companies, these big providers like Time Warner are saying, okay, traditional TV is struggling. We're struggling getting traditional TV subscribers. So let's look past that as a business model. Let's start doing a little bit better job owning content, and let's do a little bit better job with online streaming. So getting into Hulu is great for Time Warner. They, of course, have HBO, which is, does third-party licensing as well, but now with, something like with shows like Game of Thrones just being complete cultural sensations, that's their content that they own.
Right.
And then also providing better platforms for online streaming. Like I said, with Hulu, HBO Now is now a thing. So I think there was signs of it with Verizon purchasing Yahoo's core business. Verizon saying, hey, we're probably in this Yahoo sale less for the search engine and more for there's some content here that we can actually own, whether it be Tumblr or Yahoo Finance.
Definitely.
Or the vertical, all Yahoo entities. And even other companies that have gone ahead and even partnered up with Netflix in this kind of larger media sphere. Disney allowing Netflix to become its exclusive online streamer.
It's coming up next month. They're going to start.
Yeah. Disney movies all
all day
over
long.
Netflix. Yeah. And also Comcast partnering up with Netflix, allowing it onto its X1 platform. Just kind of this new trend is these media companies and these cable companies saying, okay, we kind of have to work with what used to be the enemy before.
Exactly.
To survive.
They've kind of resigned in a way.
Yeah. It's just like what the industry is now, I guess.
Yeah.
It's all changed.
But I guess it's also important to note that these companies will never go away because you still need internet to stream Netflix and Hulu.
True.
Which they provide, well, at least Comcast provides. So
and
they'll never go away.
Yeah, that's the brilliant thing, right? Is that, I brought this up on the show when we were talking about the Verizon and Yahoo purchases, that if I have Verizon's internet and, or I'm using like a phone with Verizon's cell phone coverage and I'm accessing Tumblr mobile or Yahoo Finance on my phone, then Verizon's getting a cut of the fact that I'm using their connection, and also they own the content that I'm accessing.
Right.
So, this becoming a little bit more monopolized is, these companies are getting bigger and owning more things, and you're connecting and interacting with their content a little bit more frequently. So
I guess we'll never be able to cut the cord all the way. Which is kind of sad and a little weird to think about, though. You'll never be able to escape them. But
yeah.
Anyways.
So definitely interesting. Okay, and then moving on to
Tesla.
I always say the elephant in the room. I've said that like 3 or 4 times already on the show, but it's lingering right behind us. We were obviously going to talk about Tesla this week, so why don't we do it? They reported earnings this week and wasn't great again.
Just, Typical Tesla. So they missed earnings estimates. They posted a loss of $1.54 per share, which missed our Zach's consensus estimate of a loss of $1.16 per share, which is quite a difference. Like, they really did not. No. Revenue estimate.
I'll let you say the facts and then
okay.
Because I've got some things to say.
Revenues also missed estimates. They saw revenues of $1.27 billion, which fell short of our estimate of $1.516 billion. And then Tesla delivered a total of 14,402 new vehicles, including 9,764 Model S and 4,638 Model X vehicles, which was slightly more than it had previously announced, but well below prior forecast of 17,000.
Yeah, which, I feel like if any other car company was coming in, that much of a percentage below their forecasted vehicle deliveries, that would be bad news. But
and their stock would tank.
Take a look at Tesla today, and it's up like 1.6, almost 2% today as a response. Maybe investors are like really excited because that 14,402 new vehicles is the most, I think, that they've sold in a quarter, close to what they did in the first quarter of this year too. And they're still, in the report, they said that production and demand, they're still on track to deliver 50,000 vehicles in the second half of the year, which is interesting because they did less than 30 in the first half of the year, and have previously said that 80,000 was their goal. If they do hit 50,000 in the second half, they'll be right near that 80,000 total. It'll be really close. They'll fall a little bit short. But what I just don't get is how this company can consistently fall short of analyst expectations and their own forecasts and still
make money.
Yeah, well, still have the stock go up. They're certainly not making any money. They have never the 13th quarterly loss in a row or whatever,
right.
Something like that. And we're just kind of, 50,000 in the second half of the year is a whole lot more than they did in the first half of the year. Obviously there's different seasonal factors to that too. And I guess it's not unreasonable to think that they can hit that sales goal. But this is a company who very recently said, "Oh, we're gonna deliver 500,000 cars by 2018." 2018 is 2 years from now. And we're sitting at 80 right now if they can reach their previous forecast, which they've not shown a great track record of doing. Almost as if Musk doesn't really care about hitting forecasts, which is fine. You don't, I guess, if that's like the philosophy you want to have is we're selling the most cars we've ever sold. Who cares if we didn't get to that forecast? I get it. But I just someone tell me how they're supposed to get to 500,000 vehicle deliveries by 2018 when the Model 3 isn't even supposed to be hitting full-blown production until then or 2020 even has been said. So I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me.
This the status of the Gigafactory, I think.
That's great. The Gigafactory that just opened and is still under construction and won't be at full production capacity for several more years either. I get that. I really do get the fact that at some point we're gonna have to shift over to electric vehicles and renewable energy has to be a thing at some point, and these no pollution cars are certainly going to just keep becoming more and more popular. But it's also a publicly traded company that is supposed to be providing value for its shareholders, and it's not doing that right now. And I guess we've kind of just put so much faith in Elon Musk to be this genius that we're just kind of they're selling cars so they'll get there eventually.
That most people think what Elon Musk touches turns to gold.
Yeah.
And the company definitely seems to be basked in this halo of hope and happiness and we just want, I think investors and I don't know, maybe a greater population than that just want the company to succeed so badly that it doesn't really seem to matter how poorly they do every quarter.
Yeah, and I get it. I mean, I get it because it's they were one of the first to really put out these really well, like good. These cars are great cars. Let's not dance around that. They're zero tailpipe emissions, 0 to 60.
They're gorgeous to look
blink
at.
of an eye. They're gorgeous. They're also really expensive. That's fine. It's a luxury car maker. The Model 3 is going to bring that price point down and become a little bit more average consumer
Do you
friendly.
think because it's American made?
Well,
is that why people are like really gung ho about it?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I was gonna bring up the same thing. Are we just like, are we rooting for this company because it's an American car company doing all the right things? And I'm air quoting that because it's this American company that's innovating and whatnot. But its competitors and its foreign competitors are not far behind on creating a $30,000 car that has zero tailpipe.
If you look at the Chevy Bolt, which it's not a pure electric car, but it could be one day. Then you have the Nissan Leaf, which is, I believe that's a pure electric car. So already two models.
That's what I'm saying. It's not their competitors aren't that far behind, and by the time these couple years, 2, 3, 4 years down the line, before they've even said that we can get the Model 3 at full production capacity, that's a lot of time for everyone else to catch up too. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's just where we've gotten to the point where we're just really hoping they will succeed. So we're doing our best as investors to support them. Maybe I just have a pessimistic view on the company. Maybe I have a pessimistic view on Elon Musk. I don't get it. I don't get necessarily the response to this earnings report specifically. I will say that it does seem like if there's enough money to keep the company going, it will will keep growing. They are going to keep selling more and more cars.
And Elon Musk,
just how fast can we get that going?
Right.
Are you going to be able to meet these ridiculously lofty goals that you've set for yourself? And then also, it's not like they can, when they bump up their goals and say, okay, we were going to sell 500,000 in 2020, now we're going to do that in 2018. Why? When you miss that 2 years from now and everyone's disappointed that you didn't get to your sales goals, like you just did that to yourself. You made an unrealistic goal for yourself. And that's not even me saying, okay, they definitely aren't going to sell 500,000 cars in 2018. It just looks like they have a long way to go before they get there. So it's interesting to see. I don't know. Maybe
but Elon Musk can probably grow money on trees. So the company will maybe never run out of funds.
Yeah. Well, his some of his other ventures, I mean, SpaceX, it's not like that company's making any money.
No.
So that's
and then you have the whole Solar City
debacle.
partnership / debacle / mess.
They're buying it now, which Solar City hasn't been doing. I mean, I don't know. That's a whole different conversation. that purchase, that move is a whole different conversation, which I don't think we have time for today.
Unfortunately.
And yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that. Feel free to join the conversation if you are seeing something here that we're not. Tweet at us. I would love to hear from you. But for now, yeah, I'm gonna shrug my shoulders and just say I don't get it.
Wait till next quarter.
Yeah, I guess, or next year, or the next year, or whenever. So yeah, that about does it for us this week. Thank you guys for listening again. You can find the links to all of this coverage and all the additional details in the article. Make sure to like and subscribe. Really appreciate that. And we will see you next week.
Yep. Thanks, guys.